moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't have to say anything.
But I haven't made off.
We don't mention one question in the little line. Anything you do is to negative evidence.
But I haven't made off though.
For your arrest as recorded in fact investigation.
Welcome to Rate the Audits, the channel where we highlight official misconduct, break down police encounters, and promote accountability through informed discussion. Today's footage comes courtesy of I Spy Audits. You'll find his channel linked below. Make sure to subscribe and show your support for his work. In this episode, Auditor I Spy makes a routine stop at a BP petrol station to refuel and attempts to pay using a 20-coin official legal tender issued by the Royal Mint. What should have been a simple transaction quickly spirals into chaos when staff refuse the payment and call the police. When officers arrive, instead of resolving the situation calmly, they escalate it, detaining I Spy despite no law being broken. But that unlawful arrest didn't go unanswered. I Spy took the matter to court, and the outcome? A significant payout that speaks volumes about accountability and misuse of authority.
£1 coin.
Never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Right. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person, or the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do?
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Wow.
We just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay. Because is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
From the moment she steps onto the scene, it's clear the responding officer isn't prepared for what's unfolding. The auditor immediately notices her body camera and questions why she hasn't announced that she's recording. Official policy leaves no room for doubt. Officers are required to inform the public as soon as a recording begins. Rather than acknowledge that, she insists no such rule exists, revealing either poor training or disregard for transparency. What follows only makes things worse. She demands the auditor's name, even though this is a civil disagreement between a customer and a business, not a criminal investigation. There's no lawful reason to compel identification when no crime has taken place. Whether through ignorance or intent, her actions fall short of the professional standard expected from law enforcement.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately, it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve the civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue, that's nothing for the police to get involved in.
We don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue, then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is.
It is
a police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them...
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, yeah, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today whether we take your details and we deal with it at a later date.
The officer openly acknowledges that the issue is civil, yet immediately tries to invent authority to demand identification, claiming she'll sort it out later. That's not how the law works. Without reasonable suspicion of a criminal offense, there's no power to compel personal details. A disagreement over payment doesn't suddenly transform into a police matter just because a store employee calls for backup. When she warns that the auditor could be circulated as wanted, the statement collapses under its own weight. Wanted notices apply to criminal suspects, not to people in a private payment dispute. Using that kind of threat to force cooperation is a clear misuse of police power, and a sign she knew she had no lawful ground to stand on. If she truly believed a crime might be involved, she was required to check for the legal elements, such as dishonesty, intent to avoid payment, or leaving the scene. But none of that applied here. The auditor remained on site, attempted to pay, and simply challenged the method of payment, making this case a textbook example of a civil disagreement, not a criminal act.
So basically, he's trying to pay with this. They've run the post office and said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter. However, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. Now, he's obviously not really wanting to do that at the minute.
Because it's a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved
But
in.
you're still going to make off, aren't you? Technically without payment, but if we can get your details...
But I have paid.
But you haven't...
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Has he paid?
Policy? No, he hasn't.
Right, if you haven't paid and if you walk out the door now...
They've still got the money though.
Just let me finish. If you walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them.
Well, I do.
Because it's a civil issue.
But it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police matter.
Second officer arrives and, instead of calming things down, immediately escalates the situation with threats of arrest. That approach makes no sense. The auditor was still inside the premises, clearly engaged in a discussion about payment, and had shown no intention of leaving. You can't make off without payment when the person hasn't gone anywhere, and there's certainly no evidence of intent to avoid paying. Her threat becomes even more hollow once you remember the context. The auditor had already offered a $20 Royal Mint coin, a legal form of tender, which the cashier chose not to accept. That alone proves he wasn't trying to dodge payment. Under the Theft Act, both the act of leaving and the intent to avoid paying must exist together, and neither condition was met. By trying to turn a civil disagreement into a criminal case simply because she couldn't get his ID, the officer revealed a serious misunderstanding of the very laws she's meant to enforce.
Walk out that door now, you know what it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that the coin can be used.
Is there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being. However, we need
I don't intend to.
No, I appreciate that.
If you can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details, we can deal with it at a slow time. We can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
we don't know where you live. You might not even be from around here. I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean. We have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details, and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
Which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the fuel. Which one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid at the minute.
The whole encounter is built on a flawed assumption. The officers keep warning, "If you leave," as if the auditor were about to flee without paying. But that moment never actually arrived. He remained inside, still talking with staff, and had already offered a Royal Mint $20 coin as payment. Their reactions weren't based on what he did, but on what they imagined he might do. That's not policing. That's speculation. Their justification for demanding identification is just as weak. His vehicle registration was visible right outside, a legitimate and immediate way to verify his identity if they truly believed it was necessary. Instead, they ignored that simple option and doubled down on demands they had no legal authority to make, transforming a civil dispute into a supposed criminal incident. Rather than resolving the issue, they managed only to escalate it.
Well, I have, because I've handed the coin over. Right. So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No.
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
Correct.
Right, so did you contact them today, or was it yesterday, or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
how's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. At the end
You don't know that. It is. It's
Right.
legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right, okay.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we could kind of end the matter here, can't we?
Well, if it's a civil issue, I don't need to assist you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that coin.
The auditor had already gone above and beyond by showing that BP themselves confirmed the coin's validity. That should have been the end of the discussion. Instead, the officer twisted the situation, insisting he contact BP personally, and if he refused, she claimed it would then become a police matter. That logic is completely off base. There's no legal duty for a citizen to make calls on behalf of an officer, and declining to do so doesn't suddenly turn a civil disagreement into a criminal case. It's the officer's job to examine the facts and apply the law, not to shift responsibility onto the public to prove their own innocence. Her follow-up remark, "We don't know that coin," only made things worse. A $20 Royal Mint coin is legal tender under UK law. If officers don't recognize official currency, that reflects a lack of training, not wrongdoing by the auditor.
But if
You're
it's a civil
running the risk of
agreement,
being arrested because you haven't given us details, and you're going to walk out that door and it's technically a failure to pay.
but then it'll be a
Make up
civil.
for that paper.
But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's
So,
fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
unlawful
But
arrest.
like I said, we've been honest with you in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest, okay? And all I'm saying
Well, he
is, if you
hasn't.
get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But
you
as
know-
far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, there's going to be a make up that payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
Oh, you give us your
You're-
details.
You're refusing to give us your
From there.
details, and we don't know that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you
Is it urgent?
that he said he would take the coin
But he isn't out.
if I take my mask off.
Right, well I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could be registered to somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't
Once
need
you
to
leave
assist
the
you.
situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go
But I
with.
don't
You're
need
still
to assist
refusing
you.
to. Are you offering to give
Because
the
you're
staff,
wrong.
not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option, but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the
No,
background.
Fine, you can
So-
prove that
You can
at court.
prove-
I've got
Prove that at court
That's
then.
fine. You can prove that at court.
Right, well, this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't
I
have to
haven't-
say anything,
but I haven't made off.
We don't mention one question from the later line court. Anything you do is a negative evidence.
But I haven't made off
That's
though.
for your arrest is recorded in fact investigation. Okay?
But I haven't made off.
That you're under caution as well.
And due to the fact that you failed to provide details.
But I haven't made off.
Fails to provide details, yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right, are we going to go calmly? Are we going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay, well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just
take-
take them out. It's just a question we ask
Can
everybody.
we just take your camera off as well, please?
This is the moment where the situation shifts from confusion to outright misconduct. The officers actually arrest the auditor for making off without payment while he's still inside the shop, clearly saying, "I haven't left." That single statement should have stopped the arrest in its tracks. The law is clear. The offense of making off without payment requires two things: leaving the premises and intending to avoid payment. Neither of those applied here. He hadn't gone anywhere, hadn't refused to pay, and had even offered a valid form of currency. Despite that, the officers pressed ahead, ignoring the basic legal definition of the offense. In that moment, the arrest had no lawful basis. It wasn't just poor judgment, it was a complete misuse of police power. Now Auditor I Spy shares what happened next in his legal claim.
About 10 months ago, I walked out of those gates after being falsely arrested for using the £20 coin. The Chief Constable has paid out £4,000 in compensation, but unfortunately he did not apologise at any point, even taking him to court. It went all the way to court. We had the hearing date, and then the Chief Constable saw some sense and paid £4,000 in compensation, but no apology.
The case eventually reached court, and the outcome spoke volumes. The auditor received $3,999 in damages plus full legal costs. That's not pocket change. It's a clear acknowledgement that what happened was wrong from the very start. Under scrutiny, the police's position completely fell apart. They couldn't defend their actions, so they settled. What makes this outcome even more telling is the silence that followed. According to the auditor, the chief constable never issued an apology. The force was willing to hand over thousands in public funds to quietly resolve the case, yet couldn't find the professionalism to simply admit fault. That silence reveals a deeper problem, one where protecting reputation takes priority over accountability. This incident is a textbook example of how a minor civil disagreement can spiral into misconduct when officers don't understand the law they're enforcing. A simple issue over a legal coin, something that never should have involved the police, turned into a wrongful arrest fueled by ego and authority, not evidence. Throughout the encounter, the officers built their entire justification on a hypothetical scenario. What if you walk out without paying? Even though the auditor never made any attempt to leave. That isn't law enforcement, that's fabrication. When police start creating imaginary offenses to justify their actions, they cross the line from maintaining order to abusing power. The deeper issue exposed here is cultural. When intimidation replaces knowledge and threats replace patience, it's not just the person being detained who suffers. Public trust erodes. Because if it can happen over a coin, it can happen over anything. And in the end, almost $4,000 of taxpayer money was paid out, without a single word of apology from leadership. That's not just arrogance, it's avoidance. It tells us exactly where the priorities lie, protecting the institution's image rather than addressing the behavior that damaged it. That wraps up today's video. If you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me continue independent reporting. And make sure to check out I Spy Audits. His channel link is in the description. Show him some support. Thanks for watching. This was Rate the Audit, and I'll see you in the next one.